I'm very happy to be here today to introduce Jamie Smith Hopkins, English class of '98 and also valedictorian of the class of '98, who is a staff writer at the Baltimore Sun. I'm here on behalf really of Chris Corbett, who nominated her. He is our journalism faculty person and clearly a mentor to Jamie. And I'm going to read his remarks. If any of you know Chris, you know that he's an unbelievable raconteur, and I don't think I can quite do justice to his style, but I will do my best. So he says, the impressive success of Jamie Smith Hopkins, a relatively recent graduate of UMBC, is all the more extraordinary when one considers that she has soared and thrived in American journalism at what may well be the worst time in the history of news gathering. She's a most worthy recipient of the Alumni of the Year award. For a second year in a row, the English department has had a young graduate honored as Alumni of the Year in the Humanities, and both of these graduates were young women, which we should note, he tells us. That's true, we should. Last year, our honoree was Vicki Valentine, a 1996 graduate who is a senior producer at National Public Radio in Washington. This year, Jamie Smith Hopkins is one of the most prominent young journalists at the Baltimore Sun. She also remains a dedicated and tireless supporter of UMBC's student newspaper, The Retriever Weekly. Jamie Smith Hopkins is precisely the sort of UMBC graduate we should be recognizing, a relatively recent graduate who has been highly successful and maintains strong contacts with UMBC. During her entire undergraduate career at UMBC, Jamie Smith Hopkins was an invaluable fixture at the Retriever Weekly, and she remains committed to the school's newspaper in good times and bad times. She is loyal. She's also one of our most visible alums. Her byline in the Baltimore Sun is a fixture, and it runs on some of the most important journalism the Sun is printing. Her knowledge of real estate and the housing market in this terribly complex and confusing time in our nation's history has made her a star at the Sun. We believe that there are few UMBC graduates of recent years who more deserve recognition for their accomplishments. In the past decade, Jamie has also tirelessly supported the student newspaper here, frequently alerting students to internships and job possibilities and coming to campus on her own time to talk with them. And then he adds, on the off chance that someone's not familiar with Jamie, let me remind them that she was a President's Scholar who graduated in less than 4 years in December of 1998 with a 4.0 GPA. And I should say, I do remember Jamie in one of my very first years at UMBC, sitting in the front row asking the hard and really interesting questions. So she was an extraordinary student, valedictorian, honors certificate recipient, and as we've said, news editor of the Retriever Weekly at a time when the paper was probably as good as it has ever been. These are not easy times to be a journalist, but Jamie's extraordinary success reflects on her great talent. She went from UMBC to Ames, Iowa to work for the Tribune, a distinguished small daily newspaper edited by Michael Gartner, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who was a former Wall Street Journal editor and head of NBC News. With a year of seasoning in Iowa, Jamie was back in Maryland at the Baltimore Sun, where she had been a highly successful intern while an undergraduate at UMBC. Chris says, I do not believe UMBC ever sent a better intern to the Sun. And he should know, he sends many. She is one of the Sun's most high-profile reporters covering regional economic matters in the housing market. Her real estate blog, baltimoresun.com/realestatewonk, is a fixture at the newspaper and closely studied by the industry. She has been honored repeatedly for her fine work covering the real estate market at an especially volatile and complex time. Earlier this year, the Society of American Business Editors and Writers honored her with the Best in Business Award for her real estate coverage. UMBC should be proud of her, and we are quite certain that she will continue to make an honors university in Maryland proud of her.
So I'd like to start off by telling you a story because that's pretty much what I do all day. It's really more of an anecdote, which journalists really like, a nice short little story. And this happened when I was a sophomore at UMBC. I applied for an internship at the Sun, and I did not hear back. I heard nothing, which was not very encouraging. And then several months later, more than several months later, really months later, Professor Corbett, who I wish were here today so I can embarrass him, forwarded it with his recommendation this time, and that's what did the trick. Internship led to more internships, which led to my job, which just really goes to show not only how important Christopher Corbett's good opinion is, but also how the web of resources at UMBC extends far beyond the classroom, that the classes are just the beginning. I feel like I learned just as much in my classes, but just as much of the retriever as I did in my classes. I mean, it was a great learning experience. And I feel like I gained so much more from my courses because the professors were just really incredible. They wanted people to come and talk to them after class. They didn't get upset if you came and talked to them during office hours, and I don't think that's true at all colleges. I think a lot of professors would much rather be doing their research, and please leave me alone, thank you very much. But Dr. Berman, I think I bothered her a lot in office hours, and I never felt like it was a bother. I felt like I gained so much in learning not only how to do better in the courses I was taking, but also how to think more broadly and to reach and never just to sort of assume that what I was doing was good enough. So one of the things that occurs to me is that most people can only assume that their college experience had some impact on their job prospects. They can't really know because I can't go back in time and try it some other way and see how it all works out. And I just happen to be in the odd position of being my own control group, that I really do know what impact the entire college experience, not just being here and saying, I'm a UMBC student, but being able to tap into this web of resources, what a difference that made for me. So I try to give back by paying that forward and by talking to the retriever students and keeping in touch and making sure they know that there's help for them beyond the classroom. But I don't think it really qualifies as major giving back because it's so much fun to talk about journalism with students who are so interested and and want to be doing good journalism here as well as hopefully when they graduate. In any case, it's the very least I can do, because it's not just the impact UMBC had on my career, it's also the impact that I had on my entire life. My very first day walking to the retriever office, I wanted to apply for a job, and my application was taken by this really interesting guy who's standing right there in the back. He's standing right there in the back because he's here with our daughter Katie, who's 3 and shouldn't be sitting here quietly for long periods. So yes, his name is Hopkins. We've been married for years, and so that's why I really want to say thank you, UMBC. You made a huge impact in my life, and I appreciate it.